Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to ARIN 45. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Paul Anderson, the Chair of the ARIN Board of Trustees.
Thanks, Bev, and welcome to everybody here to this unprecedented and historic meeting for ARIN. Obviously, we're all aware of why we've had to move this meeting from our planned meeting in April, when we'd hope to all see you in Louisville, to virtual. Just before we get started, as a little bit of background, this meeting obviously culminates a lot of efforts behind the scenes, and just to give the community a bit of a background on our thoughts. When it was clear we could no longer hold our in-person meeting, the board worked in close consultation with the AC and staff, and we decided that holding a meeting in April at that time was not right. Even though internet policy is an important item at that point, we just felt that many community members throughout the region were dealing with other more important things, and that we would push the policy process back a bit and hold this shortened virtual meeting. In close consultation again with the AC and the staff, this meeting structure is obviously different than it's virtual, and also a bit different in content and style. Specifically, we've just trying to hold a minimal meeting to allow us to move forward with items that are essential. So unfortunately, there'll be less of maybe some of your more content that you look forward to see, but we hope that you understand that part of that is just to keep our policy process moving and to allow you to move that into this process into your lives. But we do look forward to feedback on this. And please bear with us. There may be the odd hiccup and all that, but and of course we will have to rely on the underlying technology that we all work on day in day. But I'd like to, before we really kick it off, just thank the ARIN communications team, specifically led by Hollis Kara and her entire team. I'd love to name them all, but I'm fearful I will forget some of them. They have put countless hours into trying to make this work and get ready for this under very short notice. So while normally in an in-person we'd hear all the applause, I'd like you all to just give a little clap and thank them for all their efforts as we kick off this meeting. So with that, let's get ARIN 45 underway. Next slide, please. First, we're just going to do some introductions. Here virtually in the house, we have all of our volunteers and community leaders. Specifically from the board, we have myself, who's the board chair, my vice chair, Bill Sanford, our treasurer, Nancy Carter, and our other board members, Dan Alexander, Peter Harrison, Catherine Middleton, and of course, our CEO and president, John Curran. Also, we have Steve Ryan, who acts as our corporate secretary. Next slide, please. I believe now, based on the over 100 people we have in the room, that we have all of our AC here: Owen, Andrew, Kat, Alyssa, Tina, Anita, Amy, Joe, Carrie, Leif, Robert, Chris, Alicia, Allison, and Chris Woodfield. These people put in countless hours for the community to move the policies forward that you work today. Next slide, please. We also have our NRO Number Council. These people coordinate with the other regions on global policy and other matters in the more global internet scene. Kevin, Martin, and Louis, they are also present today. So let's get into the next, a little bit of just how this meeting is going to work. Next slide, please. So if you want to see how many participants we have, you can just hover over and you'll see that the numbers in gray. It looks like we have about 97 attendees right now, plus 13 of us who are behind the scenes right now running the meeting. Next slide. So just a few rules and reminders that applies even though this meeting is virtual. As your board chair, I will be acting as your chair throughout this meeting, or anyone I designate. John Curran will be acting as a master of ceremonies to help move the agenda along. It goes without saying that you need to continue to clearly let us know who you are and what your affiliation is, regardless of whether you type in your question or comment, or you decide to come on the audio. And again, ARIN requires all community participants to adhere to our standards of behavior. And there's a link there on the screen in case you are not familiar with them. I would ask all community members, new and old, to take a moment to review that. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to go over just how the meeting will work from a technical standpoint and just quickly go over the agenda. Next slide, please. So everybody is, I'm sure, at some point in the last few months been on a Zoom call, but for some of you, this might be your first Zoom webinar. The client is the same, but there are some different functionality that you should be aware of. The first is that some of the controls that you've come used to will not be there. You can see from the bar that as a participant, there is a less options for you available. Same thing, you will only be able to speak in the conference when you have been acknowledged by our moderator. So the first thing to say is that we do have a chat going on that is more familiar to all of you. You can click there right now and see and chat along. That chat is provided for us to interact socially, raise technical issues, and communicate any issues. Our only ask is that please do not engage in the policy discussions there. That is not an official forum by which to engage and be put on the record. Next slide. So if you want to use the chat, just click on chat, click on all, make sure you select all panelists and attendees, and you can then send a message and everybody who is here at the meeting will see it. And maybe we can, of course, overload the chat right now and everybody could just let us know where they're coming in from today. Next slide, please. So let's get a little on to the how you'll actually be able to interact with us. First, again, there's the chat, and we'll be moderating that based on our accepts ARIN standards of behavior. Next slide, please. And then we have our Q&A section. So there will be two ways in which you can interact when the opportunity is for you to provide input. One will be to use the Q&A function, and one will be to actually turn your mic on and speak. So first, the Q&A. You can at any time during the presentation or during the opportunity, click on the QA and type in your question. Again, please remember to note your affiliation and your name if you haven't logged in or your name is not showing correctly. Those questions will be queued by our moderators, who will then read them into the record for us, and then they can be addressed in real time. Next slide, please. The other way you can do it is, if you wish, is to get into the more traditional microphone line, is to click a raise hand. If you have raised your hand and when the time comes for the microphones to open, our moderators will, generally in the order of which you've raised your hand, call on you. You will then be presented with an opportunity to unmute yourself, so please look for that button. And at that point, you will be live and be able to speak into the meeting. If you decide you don't want to speak, you can simply just lower your hand again. Next slide, please. Just a bit of other housekeeping. So this is being streamed live on YouTube right now. So please, and will be recorded and posted. So do keep that in mind. A transcript is being made available in real time, and the slides are available online. And with that, I believe next slide. We are ready to just go over. So quick summary of our agenda. First, we're going to have Tina Morris come up and give our very brief docket overview. Then effectively for the rest of today, we will be dealing with ARIN policies, specifically before a break 2019-1 and 2019-10. Next slide, please. We'll take a brief break and then continue with another two policies. And then we'll be having three very brief staff reports to give us an update on some things that have been working on. Even though there have been some unprecedented times, staff continue and have actually had some very exciting product developments that they'd like to quickly share with you, including the Internet Registry, Routing Registry, the RIR that just launched, an RPK update, and just a general one. And then we will be closing with an open microphone. Next slide, please. If you do step away, you can keep an eye on the agenda and schedule. It is linked there on the website. Next slide. And with that, is there any quick questions before we get underway on how this is going? And can I ask Bev and that who are watching the chat, do we look like we are on board? I see John Curran is already looking to get in. So John Curran, our president and CEO.
Paul, I just wanted to say thank you for that wonderful opening and introduction. And we are, as you said, we're very pleased to be able to have this meeting, and hope that everyone enjoys the ability to participate, even if we can't do it in person. And as soon as we're sure where there's no questions, we're going to move on to the first speaker, which will be Tina Morris doing the AC docket overview.